today is day 3 in Seville. It has been such an incredible trip so far. I don't want it to end. I'm like obsessed with this warm, sunny weather in October. So for today, I have 2 things booked. My rule is never book more than 2 things a day, just leaves room for serendipity. I'm gonna start with a tour of the Catedral de Seville, which I'm so excited to see. I've walked by it numerous times already and it just looks so massive, and I cannot wait to dig into the history and the architecture of it because I love history and architecture. And then in the evening at 6 p.m., well, meeting at 5:45, I've booked a Rooftops of Seville tour. So I'm really excited to see what that's all about. I really loved my tour last night with Devour Tours, which was a food and tapas tour. This one is all about teaching you about Seville from kind of its different rooftops and scenic vistas. So something a little different to check out. And then in the middle of the day, I know for sure I need to get a good lunch in because the tour I think starts at 6 p.m. and I think it runs for like 2 or 2.5 hours. So I definitely want to make sure I get a good lunch in so I'm not hangry on the tour, but let's see what else I will discover along the way. So if that sounds good, let's go jump in to day 3 in Seville. So I left my hotel for the day and my destination was the famous cathedral in Seville, which is Catedral de Santa María de la Sede. And it is the largest Gothic cathedral in the world, and it's built on the site of a former Alumad mosque after the Christians reclaimed Seville in 1248. So construction of this magnificent cathedral began in 1401, and it took over 100 years to complete. It was finished in 1506. Now, I had pre-booked a ticket to enter, and I always do recommend this with certain attractions. I think this is one of them, especially given the crowds that I encountered inside. It was a little intense at times, but I do think the cathedral overall is worth it, and I can see why so many people flock to come and visit it. The architecture of the church combines Gothic, Renaissance, and Medieval styles, and it is a reflection of Seville's layered history, which is something we've covered in my Seville series so far. Seville is just such a fascinating place historically, with how many different types of people, religions, architectural styles. It really is such a layered city. And in the cathedral, or the church I should say itself, there are 5 naves and over 80 chapels. And the largest is Capilla Mayor, which has a lavish gold altarpiece, and it's said to be the largest in the Christian world. Now, the cathedral also, as you saw on my entry visuals, has La Giralda, which is the bell tower, and it was originally the minaret of the mosque built in the 12th century, and it was converted into the bell tower after the Reconquista, and it was topped with a Renaissance style belfry and a bronze statue. And apparently you can climb up there a whole 34 ramps. So by the way, just to take a pause, this is kind of what you were dealing with there's a lot of the areas are kind of gated off to see some of the more spectacular parts of the church. And I felt like, well, if you can't beat them, join them. But going back to the bell tower, yes, you can climb the 34 ramps, which were apparently designed for horses, to see incredible views of Seville. Now, I did not do this, but I was tempted, but I was a bit tired while I was a bit overwhelmed with the crowd, so I just felt like it wasn't quite my thing. Also in the church is the tomb of Christopher Columbus, and it is apparently one of Seville Cathedral's most famous and controversial attractions, and his remains are said to lie inside an elaborate tomb held aloft by 4 heraldic kings, and DNA testing suggests that parts of his remains are actually in Seville, though Santo Domingo claims to also have some. Now, the church itself is still an active place of worship, and it's central to Sevilla's Holy Week celebrations. Actually, on the day that I visited, I saw a wedding taking place in the church. That was happening after my visit, but I saw people gathering for it later in the evening, which is quite cool. And I've actually heard through my friend network, a friend was actually attending a wedding in this church. How incredible would that be? So the church itself is also a symbol of Sevilla's wealth during its golden age, and this is when it controlled trade between Spain and the Americas. And it is also considered to be a spiritual, architectural, and economic power statement, and essentially the heart of historic Sevilla. So this is why it really is a must visit. And in terms of some traveler tips, I do recommend booking a time ticket. The queues can definitely be long, especially in peak season. I really noticed a lot of crowds on my visit. I did find it a little bit overwhelming at times, but people were polite, but it's just, I don't really love lots and lots of people. I like trying to explore things when they're just a bit more calm and chill. But people were polite. It was easy enough to get photo and videos and to read all the placards and to take in and learn what I wanted to learn, because that's really, I'm not necessarily there just to photograph and film things for YouTube. I also am really fascinated by history and architecture, and I really love going to visit old churches when I am in cities where that's really part of the fabric of the city. So I would definitely recommend it. Just plan your visit accordingly. So then after I wandered a little bit down the road, and I ended up at BioMio, which is really close to the cathedral. I was taking a little break from tapas. I've had a lot of tapas on this trip, and this is a healthy, organic brunch and lunch kind of spot. I got a beautiful green smoothie, and I got myself this kind of tomato, avocado, mozzarella bagel sandwich, which I was hungry at this point, and between the cool, refreshing smoothie, the sweetness of it, and just the hearty and deliciousness of the bagel, I was such a happy camper. Sometimes it really is just the simple pleasures that you want. I sat outside in a table, and I just really enjoyed a little bit of people watching bits of Sevilla go by. It is a very touristy area, but I just found the food super fresh, super healthy, super enjoyable, and I would thoroughly recommend it. And you know, you get to see like the horse-drawn carriages and cyclists and people walking by, just little bits of life in Sevilla. Then I made my way back to my hotel through the city. I was staying at Hotel Giralda on this trip. I do have a review of Hotel Giralda on my channel. I'll leave it all linked down below. Just wanted to have a little bit of a rest and a break because I was going to this rooftop tour later in the evening. So this is my hotel from the exterior. It's about a 10 to 15 minute walk from the city center, but it has this incredible rooftop pool, which I was just thoroughly enjoying my daily swims, my daily sunbathing, reading my books. So one rest, little siesta on the rooftop pool aside, then I went back into downtown Sevilla for my evening plans, and I was doing this Rooftops of Sevilla tour, which I will leave linked down below. Now, this was a solo trip for me, so one of the ways that I feel less lonely on a solo trip is factoring in some social interaction. So this can be doing a free walking tour. I did the Devour Food and Wine tour on one of the other nights, and I met my tour guide, and he took me to this really historic shop that does spiced and kind of candied nuts, among other kind of gourmet wares within Sevilla. This is kind of common on some of these tours, but it is nice to kind of meet the local woman who owned it, and the prices were very reasonable there to get a little something to bring home for my family. Then he took me to a local art gallery just because I had said I'm interested in art, which was near our first rooftop spot. So this was also quite cool to see. So our first rooftop bar was in Hotel Palacio Alcazar, in this charming little square right in the center of town. And it has this really charming rooftop, which is also covered, which is great in the heat of the sun. And it does have some really wonderful views. We were there on the early side. There were some other folks there, but made it nice just to show you for the filming. And this is the square that it's located on. So you could be down in the square at one of those nice tables, or you could be here. And we had a really lovely chilled glass of rosé with our group, got to know each other a bit, and thoroughly just enjoyed this little hotel and the vibes there. And I thought this tour just sounded interesting because you go to I think you go to like 3 different rooftop spots, and you can have an alcoholic beverage if you want, or a non-alcoholic one. Now, our second rooftop spot was literally adjacent to the cathedral, which I had been at earlier in the day, and it's La Terrazza del IMI, which comes up if you search like best rooftop bars in Sevilla. This is always one of the top spots, but our tour guide really cleverly organized this one for sunset, so we could just enjoy this kind of the sunset over the cathedral, this golden hour moment. It was really, really beautiful. And then for our last stop, he took me to a place called Hotel Amadeus. Because we were a small group, we could go to this one. I think they usually don't go to this one. And this rooftop usually is only open to hotel guests, but because we were on the tour, we had special permission to go. And I just had the most incredible sunset views with this little plunge pool. It was still a very warm evening in October in Sevilla. So you can see we're a little bit further away from the cathedral there, and we stayed through kind of the sun fully setting and going into the evening. And it was just such a great tour. And then I ended up going out with some of the folks after the tour, which sometimes happens. Our tour guide recommended this really wacky campy bar called El Garlacei, and I'll link all of these down below, which is like very like religious memorabilia. And I really hope I don't offend anyone with this section of the video. I'm religious myself, I'm Catholic, raised Catholic, but they have a drink on the menu called the Blood of Christ, which is what you see here on screen. And it's a whiskey-based drink with grenadine in it. And I'm really sorry if that offends anyone that we were at a bar serving this drink or trying it, but I just felt like it's such a campy, quirky place. I might as well give it a go. I don't actually think it's the Blood of Christ, for the record, but it was just something quirky and different to experience at a place that I would have never known about otherwise. So wanted to share it here in case that's something that you enjoyed. And again, I'm really sorry if that offends anyone who is super religious. But yeah, so that wraps up my Sevilla video. This is day 3 in Sevilla. This was a much more chill day for me. I didn't jam too much in my itinerary. As I said at the beginning of the video, I like to book no more than 2 things per day and leave the day up to a bit of serendipity depending on how I'm feeling, or if I stumble across something interesting. It really gives me that opportunity to just be in the moment and explore. So I spent many hours at the cathedral, which was wonderful. As mentioned, a little bit crowded, but that definitely happens during the peak seasons. And it was nice just to have a leisurely lunch on the street, go back to the hotel, enjoy that rooftop pool, read my book a bit, and then go back out for the sunset tour of Sevilla, which was just something a little different to do with the rooftops, to meet, you know, our fabulous local tour guide, meet some other people who are locals, and meet some travelers with the tour itself, get to see some places I might not have gone to otherwise, and was just something a little bit different and interesting to do. I've thoroughly enjoyed my trip to Sevilla so far. I highly recommend a visit there. I will leave all the videos that I've done so far linked down below with all the attractions that I've mentioned, and as I write blog posts as well on them, I'll leave all that linked down below. So if you like this video, I would really love it if you hit the like button. That really shows me who likes the videos, as well as leaving a comment if this video was helpful for you. Leaving a comment and letting me know really means the world to me, because it does take quite a bit of time to film these videos, to edit these videos and upload them to YouTube. So that really keeps me going motivation-wise. And last but not least, I would love it if you would consider subscribing and joining me on this wonderful YouTube journey. I create travel and lifestyle videos about my travels around the world, hotels I stay at, life in London, plus some other great things I'm discovering or getting up to. So thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you soon.